earlier this week, nothing happens without a team of people. And we entered this week with Empire responding to a squad of systems. So really what I want to talk to you about is a squad that's been working in St. Louis at different levels and different campaigns to seek to advance, to increase income, to end extraction, and to help people build assets. This is a team from Deaconess Foundation. I talked about what Deaconess is. You find them here in the hallway of the Deaconess Center for Child Wellbeing. It's a 21,000 square foot space and community action tank where 13,000 citizens over the course of the last year have come to build power on behalf of children around 4 core issues. And 2 of them are directly connected to this conversation today, or 4 policy zones. 1 is access to comprehensive health care. 2 is family economic mobility, which has to do with this conversation about acquiring assets. 3 is justice and equity for youth. And 4 is increased state investment in early childhood education. This team of folks works together to do that in this center that hosts and bottom lines and plays host to several critical initiatives in our community. The job of this team of people, some of which are here today, is to help mobilize these people. And who we've got going on in these different pictures, I like this image. In the bottom right corner, you see a picture of folks that mobilized for Missouri Child Advocacy Day. We've helped to sponsor that, to pull child advocates and children from across the state to the Capitol each year to bring the issues of children before them. Up in these other 2 corners, these other 2 pictures, you see people who are really just being set up. These are elected officials who came to read aloud to our Freedom School students. These are servant leaders with them. And one of them is a mayor, the other one is a state representative. There's a picture of another mayor who today is going to get a visit from all 166 members, students, and scholars. So the mayor had a really nice visit with these young people, reading to them last week, and hearing about their questions for her. And these same young people were learning in the afternoon time in Freedom Schools about why the Cure Violence Initiative should have a $500,000 line item in the city budget in order to raise gun violence as a public health issue in the city. And today they're delivering to the mayor all of their solutions for gun violence and a reminder that line item needs to go to make gun violence a public health issue in our community as they learn from the Coalition Against Police Crimes and Repression. So I say this to say, this work that is going on, seeking to impact all of these issues with concentric circles of partners that are rippling out to respond to these. And so I want to talk specifically about partners who are working at the nexus of justice and equity for youth and family economic mobility by tackling these issues of wealth extraction from our community. Y'all still with me? Yes. So I want to talk first about, and this is a slight shameless plug for Mr. Edelman's book that he didn't shamelessly plug, but I'll plug it for him. In the 2nd chapter, he begins with the story of Thomas Harvey and the Arch City Defenders. We said we were talking about squad, right? The squad that you see in this picture is Thomas Harvey. He's a curly-haired dude with the glasses on one side. On the other side is Michael John Voss, the co-founder of Arch City Defenders. And in the middle is Blake Strode, the current executive director of Arch City Defenders, who in the context of the uprising came to serve as a fellow because he was a law student at an Ivy League institution. He came and came as a fellow and decided to stay, shook off the opportunity to take 6 figures to work at a large firm because he wanted to work providing holistic legal services to people who were unhoused in St. Louis and to lead the work of impact litigation in St. Louis. And because that work was for and about and built around Black and brown people, Michael John and Thomas Harvey, who started the work, believed it should be led by a young Black person in the work. And so they facilitated succession to Blake, who's now leading that work in that community at under 30 years old. Our city is one of the anchor institutions that Deaconess Foundation is investing with over the course of the next 4 years to lift up remarkable leadership like Blake and help them to strengthen the organizational container that holds the critical programmatic and project work that they're doing in our community that they refuse to attempt to do alone. This critical work, as Mr. Edelman speaks about it in the second chapter of his book, is the work that provided for a settlement of $4.75 million to thousands of citizens who have been held because they did not have the ability to pay in the Jennings jail in St. Louis County. And that impact litigation, this is part of our calculus at Deaconess. We looked at our state legislature. We analyzed all our issues. We mapped power, and we suggested in the state legislature, we ain't gonna get what we want. We actually put that on a sticky note and put it on the wall. And I know it's absolutely, Ms. Edelman can't stand poor grammar, but that's what we wrote. We ain't gonna get what we want out of this state legislature. And if yours look like ours, and over 35% of the states in the nation, your state legislature looks like ours. So we began to look back into history and say, there are two ways we can get critical work done. One is impact litigation. So what, now what? That's the question I have to answer. How do we get it done? We figured impact litigation through the courts is one way we can get things done. The other is deep base building and community organizing. And so Arch City Defenders was a critical organization that was doing impact litigation around these issues to hold the systems and the cities and municipalities accountable. So we wanted to invest deeply with them and create this container of leadership for them. So this is part of the squad. And we offer this because we believe that impact litigation, investing in these litigation strategies, is one of the ways we have the capacity to move, at least right now, before others take total, complete control over the courts. And that's one win for Arch City Defenders. They refuse to work alone. They got squad. Action St. Louis. I also get nervous, so I always like bringing other people into these spaces with me. People who are doing closer work. Action St. Louis is a collective of black and brown organizers, young people activated in the context of the Ferguson uprising primarily, who are now doing work around three critical areas. Number one, working to end, well, I'll talk about the collaboration around ending cash bail in a moment, but one is called the Woke Voter STL, the Woke Voter Campaign for Electoral Justice. Seeking to do voter education, engage people in the process, and educate them about the work specifically of people like prosecutors. Their work has led us to help frame, using the Ferguson Commission report, they have helped to frame in the context of mobilization and integrated voter engagement in our community the last few elections since the Ferguson uprising, such that those elections have produced the first two black prosecutors in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. Both reform-minded. It's helped to shape the debate for the city's Board of Aldermen. It's helped to shape the debate for the mayor and the county executive. And it has been led by these under 30 brown and black organizers that you see. Young, proud, queer, in some cases, people of faith across a long spectrum. One of which, who was working, I'll just share this little piece of these people that I love. One of which was working part-time at a furniture place that's only open on the weekends on the day of the uprising, who just finished her degree from Washington University, while also bottom-lining Action St. Louis, while also bottom-lining the Electoral Justice Project of the Movement for Black Lives, while also holding down local work. We can do anything in so many ways. Action St. Louis work is in the areas of electoral justice with the Woke Voter Campaign, also and beyond jails, helping to frame a narrative in our communities that we actually do not need, an abolitionist narrative in our community that we actually do not need the arrest and incarcerate model of public safety that needs to be reframed for the flourishing of our families and the thriving of our children, causing critical questions about the 67% of the city of St. Louis's budget, which is spent on quote-unquote public safety, and the 4% that is placed in health and human services. And the most critical element of that is not just the increasing pensions for police officers and others, but it is also a central institution in our community that we call the workhouse. A medium security jail. I'd like to make these connections for us. In the midst of the civil rights movement, we talked in our workshop yesterday on nonviolent direct action. So we have to learn to reframe issues. Because the system of mass incarceration that we currently wrestle with was not there in its same iteration and structure in the 1960s. And so I just want to name and frame really quickly that this medium security institution, where 90% of the people who are held are black, even though 50% of the citizens of St. Louis are black, where predominantly the people are held pre-trial, which means they haven't been convicted of anything, because they do not have the money to pay bail, was opened in 1966. Movements should learn from one another, because evil mutates and learns from one another and learns from itself as well.
Go ahead.
So as we were winning on one front, this workhouse that houses black people primarily strips them away from their families for months at a time because they did not have the money to get out in the first place, takes the income. I don't know about y'all, but the average person stay there 3 to 6 months. You got a job that will hold and wait for you for 3 to 6 months? If you have custody of your children as a single parent and they don't have your oversight for 3 to 6 months, do you live in the context of a system that will allow your children to stay with you? So we're talking about an institution that systematically breaks down families through the extraction of wealth, leaves children alone or at the whims of the system, planted while we were celebrating other victims. Every year for the last 5 years in our community, someone during summer heat like we experienced yesterday, thankful for whoever prayed for the rain for the air conditioning today. Every summer, someone dies in this medium security jail where they are held before they are convicted because they do not have enough money, because it is also infested with vermin, rodents, not well cared for, not well ventilated or air conditioned by our city system. So it is a public health hazard that costs the city $16 million a year. $16 million that can be spent on asset building, college savings account, like our city treasurer is trying to set up in fall. Child development accounts that help children to build assets. So the campaign is to close the workout. I lift these up because I want you to go find them. But more than finding the medium security jail that we call the workhouse in St. Louis, I want you to find the institution in your community that is holding people because they do not have enough money. That is holding people pre-trial and causing you to think of them as criminals even though they just don't have enough money to make it out of that system. So find your workhouse. Oh, you've got one. In your local community. Organized as these folks have, bringing litigation for these practices, Arch City defenders, as they have just won, that now everyone who comes before judges in St. Louis has to at least have a conversation about their ability to pay. Now let's be clear, the city's still fighting that. Why? Because of the revenue that comes from the bail that helps to hold up the city budget. Right? But that litigation happened in the context of a narrative that Action St. Louis is helping to build out. Because they are educating people in the community and centering the voices of people who have been first and most deeply affected. This is some of the so what now what you can engage on a city and local level in your municipalities. Is that helpful? Yes. I haven't got 2 more slides. I'm going to sit down and talk. State level. Part of what we find, and we see this in the End Child Poverty Now report, is a call to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The biggest fight I had in the context of the Ferguson Commission that we sought to put out that 196-page report that called for different policy recommendations to make us a more fair, a more just, and more inclusive community was the one over the minimum wage. Because we had people from all across our community fighting around this issue. We had people from large corporations and small businesses, We have black folks and white folks, including a good friend of mine who joined the local organization with me, who owns a number of fast food restaurants. He's black, he's progressive, and everything else, but he didn't think he should pay his people $15 an hour. So I want to talk about the coalitions that are gathered in this, the MOVE Collaborative, the Missouri Voter Empowerment, Voter Engagement Collaborative, is made up of all the organizations that are represented here. Missouri Faith Voices, a faith-related advocacy organization, community organizing organization, Organization for Black Struggle, that's the fifth that you see. Metropolitan Congregations United, a local familial affiliate in our community. Action St. Louis, aforementioned. The Missouri Rural Crisis Center, people working for farmers and farm workers in our state, and Missouri Job with Justice, bring together these strands that we see in our movement, that we have seen the best of our movements of all time, engaging together around integrated voter work. What does that mean? As Evelyn said, everybody at CDF has to knock on doors. Not waiting to knock on doors until it's campaign time. Not waiting to knock on doors when it's election time. But going and having a system where the knocking on doors actually gets to know people, gets to hear people, gets to put faces and names on the work that you're doing, and then inviting those people into deeper work and leadership within the movement that is being built around this collaborative table. Is the work that these organizations were able to do. We were pleased to support and rock with, roll with, advocate for, and amplify through Deaconess Foundation. And what that led to, last slide, is some critical campaigns around these issues that I want to lay out that won in November of 2018. Now, I want to frame this because these issues won. All of them with over 60% of the vote, some as high as 67% of the vote, by ballot initiative through petitions that were collected by these organizations and others. On the same ballot where a Democratic senator lost her election. An election that was named the most critical in the country because she had been targeted in this now red state. She lost. All of these issues won. And you don't get to 67% in Missouri unless you're reaching rural people, black people and white people, urban people and rural people, and bipartisan in a state that 46 minus 1 won by over 8 points. How did that happen? Talking about the things that people cared about, having enough investment to build grassroots coalition, and then deliver people to the polls to vote. The initiatives here have to do with, you remember that state legislature we had that sticky note about that we ain't gonna get what we want, all that programming that we had? The state legislature passed a right to work bill that made it hard to organize in our community and within the context of corporations. Vote No was a ballot initiative run by some of those organizations along with labor to repeal what the legislature had done without the will of the people. When the people were asked the question, that the legislators who were elected by that gerrymandered system to elect those state legislators, when you ask the people the same question you asked the legislature, the people had a diametrically different answer to the question than the legislators did. So we repealed right to work in the state in August of 2018. One campaign builds for the other. In November, and on the November ballot, there were critical elements on the ballot that really fed one another. There was number one, a raising of the minimum wage. We really wanted to get up to $15. We had passed $15, and some of you are dealing with this in your states. We passed $15 minimum wage in the city of St. Louis. The state legislature, same people, passed a law saying you can't have a higher minimum wage in the city than we have at the state level. And we're going to keep the state, as it was at the time, at $7.60. So we needed to figure out what we could win at the state level. So we put on the ballot language to progressively increase the state minimum wage to $12 by 2023, which still gives us a little room to catch up with the In-Child Poverty Now report. It costs $15 by 2024. So we got it done. It is won, it has been increased on the same ballot, where a blue person lost the election. Partially because, and this is my thought about it, and I got the mic today, she don't. My thought about it is you can talk the talking points at a national level of your party, or you can speak to the needs that your local community is telling you to talk about. And perhaps the theory of the case has changed. That you actually need to react and respond to the economic issues in your state, in your city, and in your community. Localize these realities, engage directly with people, and this is where winning happens. And so the Raise the Minimum Wage campaign won in November of 2018, and on the same ballot was this last thing that's in the corner, because it all has to go together. I told you, y'all know this by now, poor ground. We ain't gonna get what we want out that legislature. So on the same ballot, we worked on something called Clean Missouri, which they fought at every level, which was bipartisan, articulated to restructure how we do redistricting for the state legislature in the state of Missouri. Same collaborative table that we talked about before, informed it, did the polling around it, but it said this, you know what? Maybe the partisans shouldn't be the people who draw the lines. Maybe they're too self-interested. You do understand we have this thing called professional demographers who got degrees in this thing. So maybe they should draw the lines. And maybe we should graft into the legislation all the protections of the Civil Rights Acts that have come before so that they can't draw them in a way that disproportionately discriminates against black and brown people. And maybe because people understand the corruption and the fact that there are people there who they elected who are not listening to them, then maybe whether you're black, brown, red, or blue, you would actually vote for this. And guess what? The people decided to vote for it. So Clean Missouri passed, drastically transforming how we will draw legislative district lines in our community. Why do I throw this one in when I'm talking about extraction, when I'm talking about income, when I'm talking about asset building? We have to do this kind of reform work for two reasons. Number one, strategically. We understand that the system has to be restructured, and what we found strategically, politically, is that you actually can't get people out just for this stuff. There's too much to explain. There are people who actually, it was very detailed. It was a tough case to make. But when you put this beside a minimum wage issue, right? So for 2020, we're working right now at how we put Medicaid expansion beside access to voting. Right? Non-registration, no penalty registration, automatic voter registration. How do we put those things beside one another strategically so that we can get people out for one and pull them out for the system reform that we need as well? So strategically, politically, this matters. The other reason why I point this out is that if we don't, this is what we learned with gun control today, National Day of Social Action. We learned a few years ago, earlier on in my time in Missouri, I really am done, that we didn't want access to guns in our state. And so the people said we didn't want open carry in our state. The legislature, after the people overwhelmingly said they didn't want it, came back the next year and provided for open carry in the state. We've got to win the issues, but in order to protect our wins on the issues, we actually have to transform the structures as well. So in as much as we want to end child poverty, yes, we've got to win on these types of issues. Yes, we need to read, we need to work at, we need to organize locally and at state level around the End Child Poverty Now report and the expression, the contextual iterations of it in our communities, but we also have to be thoughtful about how we transform those systems so that we protect the wins